Sometimes the episode that does the least is the episode that actually ends up giving us the most. And I'll give you my thoughts on the latest episode of Nine Perfect Strangers right after the jump. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell below. Anytime you have something, you will be among the first to know. I thought last episode was my favorite episode. This one now is my favorite episode. What's weird about this show is that somehow it manages to, when it does the least, when the plot is not moving forward the most, seems to be when it's at its best, and it's just letting the characters evolve with having different relationships with one another. And this episode sort of takes characters that were with one person or with someone else and pairs them with another. Lars, for the most part, had been with Zoe in relationship wise, and for this episode, he spends a great deal of time with Carmel, who they have a moment, and Zoe sort of gets paired off, almost gets soloed off with her estranged and dead ghost of a brother, her twin brother, and so that happens. But I think one of the biggest pairings that I just did not see coming was between Delilah and Masha. The series has sort of led us to believe that Delilah was jealous of Masha's relationship with Yao, and yes, but not because she cared anything about Yao. It's because Delilah and Masha are a thing, and she wants her to spend less time with him because she wants it. And so they have a moment that it seems like they're trying to keep this from away from everyone else, but it looked like they were in broad daylight around everyone else. So I'm not entirely sure how much they're trying to hide this, but that is sort of the big reveal. There's another, we'll talk about it at the end, but there's a big, that seems to be the big reveal of this episode, is that they have a thing, and their thing is sort of dependent on just stringing Yao along. He's just there for the ride, which is interesting. Everyone in this episode seems to be a lot more happier with the drugs that they're getting, except for Frances. Hers takes her to a trip that doesn't quite put her in the best situation. There's a sequence where Frances believes that Yao has told her that she's got a guest or a visitor that is there to see her. So after a rough night's sleep, she didn't seem to get any sleep. She comes to the breakfast table after talking about Lars giving birth in his dream, and the Mancini father saying, Michael Shannon saying that he was dreamed that he was a beetle. Frances comes to the table, sort of disheveled, looking like she didn't get much sleep, and Yao says, "Hey, here's your oatmeal, not drugged, but you got a visitor." And she goes to see her visitor, and it's the boyfriend who sort of just left her high and dry and took her money. And they have an interaction back and forth, and he basically says, like, "I didn't leave you because I was scamming you and all of this, and I left you because you're a hack of a writer." And they just go back and forth, and she gets defensive about it, and then she wakes up face first in the oatmeal that she was eating. So her drug quota has gone to a high that she might not be prepared for, and she sleeps when she's not supposed to be sleeping. Everybody is concerned with her, but it's clear that she was holding something internally that says that she doesn't believe she's as good of a writer to justify the acclaim and whatnot that she's been getting, which she has a heart to heart with Bobby Cannavale's character Tony, who starts speaking in some coded language that can make you feel a little bit uncomfortable if you've ever dealt with anybody who was considering or talking about taking their life. It feels a bit dark, it feels a little bit scary and lonely. But he definitely says some coded words and uses some coded language that says that he's tired and he's done and he just wants to be over it all, and he doesn't think he's not gonna make it to the end of the week. Lars gets to his phone call, picks up his phone and says, "Yeah, it is what it is. I'm making it out here." I think everyone is believing that he is going after Masha. I have a feeling that his eye is on something else than that. One of these other strangers. I don't necessarily think it's Masha. I think that's too obvious. I think Masha has enough other stuff going on. I feel like Lars, yes, he's using this. He's tracking someone else, and it could be his friendliness that he has with Carmel all of a sudden could be a reason why he's all of a sudden he's twisting it. But something it's too much. It's too obvious for him to be going after Carmel, and his all of a sudden taking his wall down after being so aggressively angry and dismissive to Carmel at the beginning. He now seems to be being befriending her, and I think it's something that happened on that phone call that told him that he needs to start paying attention to her and her violent reaction to Napoleon saying that the Beatles song that George made, which was her wedding song, sort of triggered her. Between that and seeing Jessica and Ben making sweet, sweet, sweet love in the hot tub in the springs, Carmel seems to be needing that person to latch onto, and I feel like Lars sort of became that for her, which I don't think is going to be good for her in the long haul. She seems very. He seems to be able to talk to her enough to get her to point her anger, even if he's not tracking her, he can get her to point her anger at whatever direction he needs it to be. So he's going to sort of manipulate her. But this episode is mostly about the young daughter Marconi, Zoe, and their now deceased son Zach. It starts with Zoe after she's getting the drugs now. She's getting them some of them smoothies in her life, so she's feeling better. But she's also starting to see stuff heightened, and these drugs, between her dream and what Lars and them, the rest say, they feel a lot more real, a lot more tangible. They can start touching and feeling things now, and so Zoe sees her deceased brother, and they have an interaction. She hugs him. He wants her to stop saying that we weren't that close because she's like we were close. I need you to stop telling people that we weren't close because we were. And I know you don't want to relive this and go through this all again, but we were closer than what you're telling people. So stop it. Um, she gives and she kind of goes through and says this speech where it's her birthday, but and yes, it's sad because her brother's not there. And this is the first time she's actually actively mentioning her brother and then not saying that she's not close with him. But she's also happy that her parents gave her an option to say, hey, you know what this place is. We see what this place is. We see what this place is doing. Do you want to leave on your birthday? And she's like, no, I want to be here. And she's happy that she's spending this time, her birthday, with these crazy batshit nuts folks because it's the first time that she got people that weren't treating her as a patient, that were treating her as a normal human being. They were treating her just as a young girl who was just trying to live her life. They didn't look at her with sadness in her eyes, and she appreciated that. But how it ends is that she's looking off to the side. Everybody else is sort of paired off. Francis and Tony are getting a dance on. Ben and Jessica are getting a dance on. Lars is dancing with Carmel, and much to to keep the lie alive, Masha gives Delilah off to Yao so they can dance. So everyone's sort of paired off. Masha's paying attention to Zoe. Zoe's off looking to the right, and she is clearly looking and physically seeing the manifestation of her dead brother Zach. And out of nowhere, Masha's like just all in, just paying attention. She just gets up, whispers into the ear, and says, "It's you. You're the key." What? What the fuck does that mean? And so this now allows me to believe that there's something mystical or supernatural about this. That she's been trying to get people in and out this whole time into this wellness center. And yes, she'll take care of people and she'll spread the word and get people out. But there's something about she's been searching for one person to I don't know talk to dead people to be that medium. I'm not sure what it is, but there seems to be something in saying that she's the key and she's seeing her deceased brother, that Masha has been waiting for this person to sort of trigger to be the person that can speak to people up on the other side of a plane that she cannot. And so that's why she's like, let's ride these drugs, let's raise these drugs, let's raise these drugs, let's raise these drugs to get them to a point of euphoria where this connection can sort of happen. And some people can, some people can't. They can get just up to that level, but they don't have enough pain or whatnot in their life to get to it. But Zoe does. We sort of now have the hook to sort of see what it is that Masha is trying to do. And now it'll sort of play out, and we can kind of get to the muck of what it is that we're going to be doing for these final 3 episodes. So those are my thoughts on the 5th episode, Sweet Surrender of Nine Perfect Strangers. What did you guys think? Go ahead and leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast by the same name. That's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. We are currently doing a run of Marvel pair-ups with the What If series versus old non-canon MCU movies like the 1944 Captain America Blade is what we're going to be talking about this year with our guest host, Jamie Jurek. We also have in our OG version of that podcast, we just did a whole little run about Candyman. So you can find that here on YouTube or anywhere else that podcasts are played, Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff. But like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.